Hi, my name is Abby Park, and I'm the Intake and MUI Coordinator here at the Pickaway County Board of DD. I'm here with Lain Hicks, and today we're going to talk to you guys about unusual incidents, major unusual incidents, prevention planning, investigations, de-escalation training, and behavior supports. So unusual incidents versus a major unusual incident. An unusual incident is simply that. It's anything that happens that's considered unusual or out of the ordinary for a person, anything that disrupts their typical routine or is not typical behavior for the person. These incidents are documented on a written incident report and submitted to the SSA for follow-up. If the incident doesn't meet criteria to be considered an MUI, the SSA and the provider will complete any necessary follow-up just to ensure the individual's health and safety is met, and we'll continue to monitor for any trends and patterns. So examples of an unusual incident would be if there's a fall, changes in eating patterns, changes in behavior, if the individual isn't feeling well, they're feeling lethargic, anything that is just out of character for the person. A major unusual incident has to meet a certain criteria that puts a person's health and welfare at risk in order to be filed as an MUI and go through a full investigation. So MUI categories fall into either a category A, B, and C. A full list and a breakdown of each category can be found on our website under the MUI reporting tab and can be referenced on an MUI cheat sheet, which can be picked up here at our office if you're interested. MUI reporting. So all MUIs need to be reported to the county board immediately, but no later than 4 hours after discovery. You can report MUIs by contacting the SSA directly, by calling our county board office, or by calling the on-call system if you're reporting after business hours. A written incident report is due by 3 p.m. the next business day, and if needed, blank incident reports are available on our website as well. If the MUI involves criminal acts or child abuse, a report is also need to be made to law enforcement and/or children's services. Once all notifications have been made and an incident report has been submitted, the county board will file an MUI and the investigating agent will begin their investigation process. Category A and B MUIs go through a full administrative investigation, which is completed by an investigating agent or an IA. Now the IA has 45 days to complete their investigation and to submit a final report before we can recommend the MUI for closure. General investigation requirements for Category C MUIs are a little bit different now that the rule has been updated. Category C MUIs are those unapproved behavior supports, unanticipated hospitalizations, and law enforcement MUIs. They now require administrative review forms, also referred to as Appendix C, D, and E forms. The administrative review form is to be completed by the provider or the SSA and submitted along with the incident report by 3 p.m. the following business day. Here are examples of what the administrative review forms look like for Category C MUIs. And just like incident reports, please fill these out as thoroughly as possible and submit them together by 3 p.m. the following day. All providers have to maintain monthly unusual incident and major unusual incident logs. However, they only need to be submitted to the county board if requested. It's important for providers to review their logs in order to identify any trends and patterns. If you don't have any unusual incidents or MUIs that month, simply document no incidents on your log. By tracking incidents in a monthly log, this is a helpful way to gather data for behavior supports, OISP development, and to assist with prevention planning in order to avoid the incidents from occurring again. This is a great segue into behavior supports and de-escalation training, which will be discussed further by Lain.
All right, hi everybody, this is Lain Hicks. We're going to switch over to how MUIs kind of go right along with what I do in my job as a behavior support specialist. And one of my biggest jobs with behavior support is crisis prevention and support. So how do MUIs and crisis prevention work together? Well, a big thing for MUIs for me is that is one point of data collection. Through MUIs or UIs, I'm able to look at the trends and patterns that I'm seeing. Things that I will probably be looking for are, which is also why it's really important to have as much detail as you can and factual detail about what you're seeing when you're writing an MUI or a UI. Make sure that we're leaving out our opinions. Making sure that when you're putting all those details, I'm going to be looking for what time of day the behavior challenge or MUI occurred. That way I can see like, oh, the last time this occurred, it was during lunch as well. So what that shows me, okay, I'm going to come observe during lunch because something might be happening during that time. That also goes along with collecting data outside of MUIs. if there's an individual that's having some behavior challenges, but we can't quite figure out why or a pattern behind it, I might ask the providers to collect some ABC data, which is antecedent behavior consequence. That helps me to determine the biggest thing that I'm going to look at when a big behavior challenge happens is what was happening right before that behavior challenge. And that's what's known as the antecedent. So I'd like to know what the setting was, what time of day, where they were, who they were with, staff wise, or any other pertinent information on people that might have been there, that might have been involved. But looking at the antecedent data is very helpful and important to me because I'm going to look at the environment, the time of day, who else was in that environment, and see if there's a way that we could have intervened earlier before the behavior challenge turned into a bigger behavior challenge, which could then turn into an MUI or a UI. Another way MUI and crisis prevention can work together is once an MUI occurs, we need to come up with prevention plans so that we make sure that this does not occur in the future if possible. So a lot of individuals, their providers might come and attend my crisis prevention and support training class, also kind of known as my de-escalation course that I teach here. And then we've also had individuals that need to come to my healthy relationships course. Again, both of these courses aren't because of an MUI, but it's common that individuals or providers will come take these classes just for the individuals, if they're working on relationship building, they might come take my healthy relationships class. That class is for building appropriate relationships with not just dating, but also friends and knowing where to set boundaries and things. For me, the biggest point of interest for de-escalation is always relationship building. If a provider or a staff member doesn't have a relationship with the individual they're working with, it is really hard to help de-escalate. Relationship building allows individuals to build trust with those that they're working with, and it works vice versa as well. When someone knows that you care about them and they know that you are looking out for them in their best interests and that you're not there to judge them, you're just there to help them through, it's more likely that they're going to be able to listen to your instructions, accept redirection if they're escalated, and also feel safe enough to calm down. It also allows you to recognize those triggers, which I would also call those antecedent behaviors, because the more you know your individual, the more you are able to spot subtle body language changes. You might be able to notice early signs of frustration. Sometimes individuals just start pacing. To a stranger, that might not look like anything, but to someone that knows them closely, they might know, hey, they're pacing. That's the first step for them getting escalated. What can we do to start de-escalating now before anything bigger occurs? And again, patterns, time of day, activities, peers who trigger them, those are always very important to know. And if you have that relationship, you're also going to be able to recognize those a lot sooner than someone who doesn't know them very well. It's also really, really important to be a detective when we're talking about behavior challenges, because once again, I know I've said it a million times already, but antecedent behaviors. We need to be able to catch those behavior challenges at the beginning before the big challenge occurs. So what was occurring before? Was there a lot of loud noises? Is that kind of what triggered the individual? Is there someone around the individual that they have a hard time being around? Do we need to kind of separate them, have them sit further away from each other? This way, providers and staff members are kind of able to control the environment ahead of time and make sure they're setting up the individuals for success before they even get there if possible. And that's how we're able to use antecedent behaviors to reduce those larger behavior challenges, being able to intervene before they even turn into a behavior challenge. And then a few things to remember. I know de-escalation and crisis prevention, I could go on about this for 3 hours. And if you take my class, I will. But some things to remember is you want to make sure you're picking your battles. You want to avoid power struggles. If in the end, whatever's occurring isn't a big deal, the individual's health and safety are not at risk, then make sure you're really thinking about that redirection. Do we need to redirect right now, or do we need to kind of just let it go? It's really important for staff members and providers to remain calm and neutral and make sure you're watching your tone of voice. Our individuals are able to pick up on changes of body language, changes of tone and voice. So it's just important that you're not playing a role in that behavior challenge and you're actually there to help de-escalate them versus, getting them even more upset because they can tell that you're upset as well. So everybody's starting to escalate. If we're talking about reinforcement and punishment, we mainly focus on positive behavior supports. But the big thing to remember is that we are always reinforcing or punishing the behavior and not the individual. So if there's a behavior that you are trying to reduce, and maybe you need to use planned ignoring to reduce that behavior, we're only going to be ignoring the behavior. We are never going to be ignoring our individual. It's also always important to be consistent because intermittent type of reinforcement is the hardest type of reinforcement to break because the individual never knows when to expect it. So making sure that your day is pretty scheduled and consistent and the individual knows what to expect out of their day is very, very important to just keeping everybody, calm. Imagine your day if you went to work and you didn't know what you had to do, but you had someone come in and just say, okay, it's time to go to this room now. That would give me anxiety. So I'm assuming that would probably give a lot of our individuals anxiety as well. So having them know their schedule, what they're doing for that day, what to expect out of the day reduces anxiety immensely. And then the last thing I wanted to say is if you are working on a behavior challenge, it's important to remember that as you are putting up boundaries, it will likely get worse before it gets better. And that's what is known as an extinction burst. So just know that, if you're putting boundaries up for the first time, that behavior will likely increase, but it'll be temporarily as long as you keep those boundaries.